You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. There will be video back on the YouTube channel for Sox in the Basement coming up on the next episode, I believe. I want to do one more from the 9-foot homemade oak bar. I'm actually moving on Tuesday. The house closed. Ed was there, right, Ed? You were there.
I was there.
I mean, although I didn't recognize you at first because you were so dapper. Like, I never get to see Ed in a suit. But when he lawyers up, right, when he makes himself all clean cut, when he walks in and he's like, I'm lawyering today, you're a heartthrob. Like, now I know why your wife's worried when you go out alone. I mean, any other time, not a chance. But you'd be a ladies' man if you wore that suit all the time.
Well, it's not just the suit. I put on different glasses so that they hang a little bit lower, so I can kind of peer out over at you from over the glasses. And, I tend to put on deodorant, which helps too.
It's weird because right now I'm a renter in my own home. Like, the guy who bought it from me wanted to get the kids registered at school locally. And so he was like, can we close early, but you could stay in the house till you move out? And we signed something that basically says, like, unless I light the thing on fire, I'm just leaving in next week. So it's already sold, which is really weird. But I'm still in here, and I'm still doing everything. We're still living here, but we're packing up, and we're getting ready to go next week. And I'm very excited about the next chapter. I'm very excited about where we're going to end up. There's going to be a little temporary studio. There might be a permanent studio at an actual location. I've talked with a couple of business owners, a couple of bars, but then there may be just another 9-foot homemade oak bar, or even longer one, in the next house when I turn around and purchase my next home within the next year. So there's a lot that's going on right now, but there's a big sigh of relief. And really, the only thing I'm sad about, Ed, is this bar. Like, I packed up the majority of the house, and I haven't gotten tears once. But I look at this bar and I go, oh no. Like, I'm worried about, like, leaving this behind. So we're gonna have video for the last episode just so you can get one more look at it. And I probably will get emotional just during that video, whereas I have not been emotional about anything else. Like, I have been throwing out old kids' drawings from the first grade. I don't need those. Like, what am I holding on to this stuff for? Like, I'm going through drawers in the kitchen going, why do we keep all this stuff? I'm finding out why my ex was so bad with money. There's like 7 pizza cutters in the house. I don't know. Every time she lost one, she went out and bought a new one, it looks like. And then they were all just buried in the drawers and in the cabinets, along with other things. There's duplicates of so many things in this house. I'm like, this is why I was poor. This is why I was poor when I was married. Just go out and buy something else. So it's been a lot of that. And then I found a lot of White Sox stuff, which is really funny. Like, I found, like, the kids had those, like, temporary tattoos. I found sheets and sheets of temporary tattoos. I think I found every giveaway from the last 10 years shoved into a drawer someplace, or in a cabinet, or in a storage bin or something as I'm packing up the house. It's insane the amount of White Sox stuff that is inside of my house. It's insane the amount of stuff that the kids collected. Like, I have the certificates from their first ball game. And that's a question I have for you. Like, when you went for the first time with your kids, did you get them a certificate? Because I remember when I got this. I was like, well, this will end up in a drawer and I'll never see it again. That's exactly what happened. It's not like we framed the thing, and that was not a thing when we were younger, right? When you went to the old ballpark.
No.
You didn't go get a certificate. You just went to the old ballpark and you kept the ticket stub is what you do. I probably still have the ticket stub from the first game, but I didn't have a certificate or something like that.
No, the old ballpark, you went and you got a cigar burn on your way in. But that wasn't an official White Sox thing.
And if you were in the outfield, you got your first beer.
Exactly. Sometimes both at the same time.
Here, kid, have a Miller Lite.
Yeah, here. Sorry about the arm. Have a Miller Lite. No, my son's got a certificate. He does, and I don't know where the heck it is. But I remember getting it. He was little. He was in a stroller. I think there's a picture of him holding it somewhere. But that's about all I can say about it. But I do the same thing. I'm going through my garage, and I'm finding White Sox stuff and just things that I had completely forgotten about. I found one of the nacho helmets just sitting in a bag somewhere, and I was like, what what is this still doing here? And thank God it had been washed, that there were no nachos left in it, because I can't remember the last time I had a nacho helmet. So
yeah, that would be the worst thing if you found the nacho helmet and there was some dried cheese in there. I'm waiting to find something gross. I really am. Like I found so many White Sox like certificates, and again like those rub off temporary tattoos that the kids get, and their kids club memberships with Southpaw on and all this stuff, like shoved in the same drawer with like all of the warranties for the stove and the refrigerator and the dishwasher. Like that's where it all was.
Yeah. You open up a closet, Mike Caruso's in there.
Right.
You know.
Mike Caruso was actually in the closet. It was really weird.
Yeah.
I opened up the door. There he was, smoking a joint. Yeah, it was really weird.
Sitting there cowering because he was afraid that he'd finally been caught.
This episode of Sox in the Basement, and every episode brought to you by Cork and Carry at the Park at the corner of 33rd and Princeton, in the shadow of the ballpark, with an award-winning menu of burgers and ballpark favorites at a great price, with an extensive bar of craft beers, familiar favorites, spirits, and wines. So much going on over there. Indoor, outdoor seating, and amazing staff. It's your home base for White Sox pregame, postgame, and viewing parties. Get over there when you're going to the ballpark. Make it part of your experience, just like I do. Cork and Carry at the Park. All right, so you wanted to dive in to why Edgar Quero is not being considered for Rookie of the Year. Explain yourself.
I'm a little annoyed by that. I saw a couple of articles as I was perusing around. I didn't realize that Edgar Quero's leading the league in picking runners off as a catcher.
That I believe.
And I believe it. I believe it 100%. I didn't realize he was leading the league. It's not a stat that I really set my alarms on. So I'm looking at that. I'm thinking like that for a catcher to be leading the league in that stat, and as a rookie to be leading the league in that stat, that's pretty impressive, because the first thought I had was, why is he not behind the plate more than Kyle Teal? But the second thought I had was, well, wait a minute here. Quero's a rookie, right? So this is something that should be like putting him up there. His offensive stats are pretty good, and clearly he is establishing himself as an exceptional defensive catcher. And that's not something that just comes along. So let's see where he stands. Let's look and see, what do people think about him as a Rookie of the Year candidate. The first article I stumbled upon was from Fox Sports, where they have Nick Kurtz in this power ranking of rookies. Nick Kurtz first from the A's, and Nick Kurtz can really hit. That's a dude.
You're going to start right at Nick Kurtz, huh? Like, I was going to start from the behind. Like, there was actually
you were going to go low.
Well, here's the thing. There was a poll on MLB.com. And the poll on MLB.com actually polled voters as to where they thought the voting was at this point. Have you seen this one? Why don't I give you that list? Because that's what the voters are looking at. Okay, so they had the top 5, the voters, that, like, when they did a little like straw poll of them, what they thought. The 5th guy on the list is Jason Dominguez. So Quero's not on the list. So first off, I would make the case right away.
Dominguez, really?
Yeah. So I would make the case right now that when they polled these voters, that was wrong. That's first of all your New York East Coast bias. They asked 33 MLB.com voters to rank their top 5 choices, and they came up with this list. And the top 5 guys, according to MLB.com, with this straw poll to try to figure out where guys were sitting in Rookie of the Year voting in the American League, Jason Dominguez comes in 5th. Now, first of all, he's not a catcher. I think if you're accomplishing at the plate more than somebody who's not a catcher and you are a catcher, that, first of all, piques my interest. So Dominguez at the time of the poll hitting .265 with a .336 on-base percentage and a .402 slugging percentage. And currently, just so you know, so we're comparing apples to apples, he's hitting .257 with a .716 OPS. And I would contend immediately that is not as good as .278 with a .724 OPS from catcher Edgar Quero. So already the list shows a bias in the voting, right? Because Quero should be ahead of Dominguez.
Oh, absolutely. And from what I understand, Dominguez is kind of a train wreck in the outfield too. So he's an average hitter at best. He's not a particularly great fielder. And other than the fact that he's the most hyped rookie to come up for the Yankees since last time they had the most hyped rookie in the league, which was Anthony Volpe, who is objectively pretty terrible. Dominguez. Dominguez doesn't deserve to be in the conversation. I mean, I will say, at least the Fox Sports one that I was looking at, he's not on there because he's not good.
Okay, so but this is a poll of actual voters. That's why I found this really interesting.
No, I got you.
Okay, so now number 4, tell me if this is on the Fox Sports list, because number 4 in the minds of these voters who were just polled within the last week or so by MLB.com in the American League Rookie of the Year race, Noah Cameron, pitcher for the Kansas City Royals. Now, this is hard to compare a pitcher to a catcher. I will tell you this.
Right.
This is a guy who's already got a 3.5 WAR as a pitcher with a 1.068 whip. You know I love that. 25 years old with a 253 earned run average. Over 18 games, he's amassed 3.5 BWAR, and he's got that amazing whip of 1.068. I mean, a starting pitcher doing that. I mean, if he wasn't a rookie and he had played and he plays the whole year, and let's say, I don't know, he's got a few more wins there, like his team just happened to come through for him a few more times, he gets a few more decisions, because he only has 12 decisions out of the 18 starts, you'd have him in the Cy Young race. So that's an interesting argument there. Do you believe a pitcher should even get Rookie of the Year unless he's up for, like, Cy Young? Like, would you put this guy ahead of Quero?
I don't know if I'd put him ahead of Quero.
Why
I will
not?
say
Why not? Because that's really good.
And I will say that he is very, very good, but I think you hit on something there with the Cy Young discussion, okay? If he's not good enough amongst all pitchers to be in that discussion, and I think Noah Cameron should be in that discussion, then I don't know how he is better as a rookie than, or more impactful as a rookie than some of the other players that are going to be kicked around. He's stiff competition for Edgar Quero, though, as a Rookie of the Year candidate. I mean, it is really hard to argue with that. And, you know, just the picture that I've got up in front of him, and he is on this list on Fox Sports. You squint, he kind of looks like Mark Burley in a Royals uniform just from his build. So, you know, on that, it kind of makes you sit there and go, hey, you know, I feel for the guy. I still don't know if it's more impressive to come up as a pitcher, though, as a rookie, and be very, very good like that, be really, really good like that, than it is to handle the catching position. Okay. And I say that only because we've seen dominant rookie pitchers come up before, and it does definitely have an impact on the Rookie of the Year race. But I mean,
you don't want to give a pitcher Rookie of the Year. You're saying you don't want to give a pitcher Rookie of the Year.
I don't really like giving pitchers Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's something where they are so dominant that he is forcing decisions. Okay. I mean, or you know, I guess if he captures the minds of the populace the way, like, say, Paul Skeens did. But Noah Cameron, I don't see him winning it. Let's put it that way.
All right, we're going to get to the top 3 in this thing because the next guy's got a first place vote amongst this straw poll. But before we do that, for exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. With no high-pressure sales, you going into their showroom instead of them barging into your home, throwing their feet up on the couch, and muddying your furniture like other window salesmen, they want you there. So an owner can answer all of your questions. You can see everything right there on display, regular size. All Window and Door Superstore installers, they don't farm out the work. There's also an owner on scene at the site when they do the job. They've been doing it this way for 40 years in Oak Forest since 1985, with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is located a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. And by the way, before the sale of this home, Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest fixed some windows for me, and they did it very timely, very well, and impressed the buyer, because they were windows that he did not think I'd be able to get it to look the way that the other windows did. They got it perfect. So they did a great job. Bravo to Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. I always like having, like, sponsors that I've used, and then I can say that I can actually recommend to you. Like, you know, I've actually used them.
Absolutely.
I've exchanged money with them, and, you know, I've paid them for a job just like they pay me for the ads, and it's a good relationship, and I believe in them because I've used them. So I always like to do that. I mean, it's very hard to find a sponsor anywhere in the network that I have not actually gone and purchased things from, or I've actually worked with. So I really want, when I tell you about somebody, when I tell you about Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest, it's not just a read. I really like them, and they did a good job for me. Because if they didn't, I'd find somebody else for the ad, right? Just
right, absolutely.
I can't talk about these guys are terrible, but I don't have to worry about that with them because they're good at what they do. Okay, So now we have the top 3, and the straw poll just came out at MLB.com. And this is where you're going to run into a problem, my friend. With one first place vote, 21-year-old Roman Anthony.
Oh, come on.
Well, okay. Come on. It's unfair to put him up against Quero because you're going to lose, or because you don't think he should get in there? Because here's his stats at the plate. He's hitting .286 with an .852 OPS, so he's better than Quero at the plate. He is. He's providing more than what Quero is at the plate. Now, he is an outfielder, but if you look at offensive numbers, he's better. So make your case.
He hasn't been here that long. He simply put, he got a late start into it. I mean,
he's only 50 at bats behind Quero right now.
Yeah, that's because he's playing every day, and Quero is, of course, a catcher who doesn't play every day.
Okay.
So, I mean, okay, from that standpoint, yeah, only 50 at bats behind him, but how many games has he played?
81
59.
Games. I'm sorry. Quero's played 81 games, and Roman Anthony's played 59. Roman Anthony has a 2.6 B WAR over those games, and Edgar Quero has a 1.6. I mean, I don't want you to lose, Ed, but I got to challenge you on this
one. Roman Anthony, he is a fantastic prospect. He really is.
But you love the catching. You're giving extra points to Quero because he's a catcher.
Well, I'm giving extra.
He throws out a bunch of guys. He's better. He's a better rookie of the year.
I'm giving. Well, first of all, I have no idea how good defensively Roman Anthony is. I will cop to that one.
Okay.
So I don't know if that WAR is entirely based on hitting, or if he is a decent fielder as well. And a guy who came up basically around the All-Star break and has had some success. If we get to the end of the season and he has built upon this, then I would say yes, he is absolutely 100% a contender. Quero's been doing it all year. He is going to finish the year with more games probably than at this point than Anthony's going to be able to put together. And just more time in on it. So I understand the 1.6 WAR versus the 2.6 WAR. I know that Anthony just hit an absolute ungodly moonshot out of Yankee Stadium, but it's one of those things where it's too early to call him a guy that I think is a serious contender, because he's got to show it now the remainder of this month, the next few weeks, but he's got to show it through the rest of the season really to make up for the fact that it's still something of a short sample for him.
Okay, so here's the thing. Now, listening to you, what I gather from this, because I'm really a listener in this, folks, just like you are, because I didn't know what he was going to say. I just said I'm going to read this list off, and he's like, Edgar Quero should be a rookie of the year, and I'm like, well, let's see if you're right. Honestly,
I think he should be in the conversation. I'm annoyed he's not in the conversation.
Okay, so I think you've made the point he should be in the conversation. Okay, if they did this MLB.com straw poll, and they went out and got like 33 actual voters, and they found out what they were voting for, and he didn't show up in the top 5, you've made the argument that he's definitely better than their 5th best guy in Dominguez.
He's definitely better than Dominguez.
You believe he's better than Cameron because Cameron is just a pitcher. And, and it's not dominating enough. It's not dominating enough. And you believe he's better than Roman Anthony because he plays a more difficult position and has been up here longer than Roman Anthony, who has played less than 60 games.
Yeah.
Does that surmise it?
That surmises it. I just think Anthony, I think it's too early to throw him into this conversation just based on the small sample size. But at the end of the season, Roman Anthony, top 5 in Rookie of the Year voting, absolutely makes sense as long as he keeps it up.
Okay, so here's what I love about what you've done as well. You've kicked out the 2 East Coast guys on this top 5 list.
Well, the East Coast bias is real.
It is real. It is. I'm amazed that's the highest East Coast guy. So I think if you understand there's an East Coast bias, of course Anthony should be lower. And of course Dominguez shouldn't even be in the top 5. Like that's right. The East Coast bias put Anthony at 3 instead of maybe 4 or 5 and got Dominguez on the list, right?
Yeah, Fox Sports has Roman Anthony at 5th. They don't have Dominguez on their list for what it's worth.
Okay,
and I think it's a good call.
Is on the Fox Sports thing, is that the highest East Coast guy?
Depends on if you consider Atlanta to be East Coast.
We don't even have an Atlanta guy in this thing. Who's the Atlanta guy?
Drake Baldwin, which I have a real problem with because he is not better than Edgar Quero.
He didn't even make it with the voters, so he kick him off. All right?
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine the other 2 guys play for the A's.
And that would be Jacob Wilson and Nick Kurtz.
Yeah, and Wilson is number 2, and Kurtz is number 1. So here's Wilson, who did not get a first place vote because, of course, the guy who voted for Anthony was probably from Boston and gave him the first place vote. Like,
right.
He was the MLB beat reporter for Boston. Like, their Scott Merkin probably gave the first place vote on this thing. And that's how he ended up on the list, okay? All the other votes of the 33 in this straw poll, the other 32 went to Kurtz. Before I get to Kurtz, though, Jacob Wilson, explain to me why Edgar Quero has an argument against Jacob Wilson.
Well, here and honestly, here's where I think Edgar Quero's candidacy runs into a brick wall, is with Wilson and Nick Kurtz.
Okay.
And I'm just going to lump the two of them together because Wilson is a shortstop, and he is a very good shortstop, and he can absolutely kill the ball. He is what we wish Colson Montgomery was at this point. And Nick Kurtz, who is just absolutely obliterating the ball. Both of those guys, even though Kurtz is a first baseman, and you can argue that the defensive position is kind of a weak one, in the grand scheme of things. I think Wilson, if I were to pick and I were to sit here and say who my rookie of the year would be, it would be between Wilson and possibly Kurtz. Kurtz also comes along with the same caveat that I had for Roman Anthony, that he hasn't been here all year. Wilson got hurt for a little bit, but he did start the season with the A's, so I'm not going to dock him for an injury in that regard. It's Kurtz's candidacy and Roman Anthony's candidacy. I believe they both belong in the top 5 if they finish strong. Wilson, I think, is a guy that Edgar Quero couldn't beat out. What I get annoyed with is not necessarily that straw poll, other than Dominguez. I get annoyed with when I'm starting to see names like Drake Baldwin and Cade Horton, who, he's another pitcher. He's been good. Matt Shaw, who does not belong in this conversation in any way, shape, or form.
I think all those names should not be mentioned. I think Quero should be above all of them. Like, I think here's the thing. I think you've made a very good point that he should be at least in the top 5 conversation, but he shouldn't win it. Like, he would have to go on a ridiculous tear here at the end, and I just don't see how he could compete. I mean, look, Jacob Wilson's hitting .312 with a .793 OPS as a shortstop, which is nice. And then Nick Kurtz has a .1054 OPS.
Right. Nick Kurtz is
otherworldly right now, okay? So, yeah, I don't think you can even compare Edgar Quero to him. But like you said at the beginning, you're just saying he should be in the conversation. You're annoyed that a White Sox player is not in the conversation, because you did make a very good point that you can put Edgar Quero up and stack him up against anybody except for those two guys, who on 2 different lists in 2 different articles, the Fox Sports one, and then the straw poll of the 33 voters at MLB.com who actually have votes. Besides Kurtz and Wilson, you can make the argument that Quero is better than everybody else being mentioned, but Quero is being mentioned not at all. No mention.
No, and there's no conversation about him at all.
And do you think it's because he's not playing every day? Because he still is playing the average amount of games that a catcher would play. Like, he is playing at least 50% of the games out there. So he is getting reps.
Right.
So I am surprised. You're right. You're right. I'm going to admit this to you. I think you're right that he should be in the conversation as an also-ran who should get no first place votes or second place votes. He should get third and fourth place votes. Edgar Quero right now should be getting those, and he's getting no notoriety whatsoever for what he's doing as a rookie. As a catcher who's leading the league in throwing guys out and is not doing that bad at all at the plate. I mean, he has actually adjusted very well at the plate.
Yeah, and not just, and actually I think it's Carlos Narvaez, who's another rookie catcher who's actually leading the league in runners gunned down, attempted steals. But Quero's picking guys off, and I think
guys off. I mixed those up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I think Quero having that trait and having that part of his game is a much more interesting thing than just throwing out base runners, because I have a feeling fewer base runners are going against Edgar Quero at this point because they don't want to get a lead off against him.
Right.
He's that kind of a weapon, and his stats, other than he has not hit for a ton of power. His stats, I think, stack up against everybody except for Kurtz and Wilson. And like I said, and Roman Anthony, if he finishes out. But the fact that there's getting nothing there, and I wonder if it has to do with the Kyle Teal situation, where you have 2 catchers who are seemingly, becoming indistinguishable from each other to a certain degree, other than Quero's defense, I think, has stood out more than Kyle Teal. Or if it's just the White Sox factor. And, Colson Montgomery got some national recognition because he went on a home run tear, although now he's cooled off. But Quero's been there, and he's been a very steadying force. And you and I have talked about how, when he's out there, when it's his time behind the plate, he does really seem to be in command, and he is really impressive as to how he carries himself and how he handles everything behind the plate and at the plate. And it kind of struck me as this guy really should be in the conversation. This guy really should be getting some spotlight on him, because he really is doing some impressive stuff as a rookie, and he's getting overshadowed by the likes of Carlos Narvaez and Drake Baldwin, who get mentioned on these lists, and Jansen Dominguez, who doesn't belong. So it's one of those where it caught me as being funny that, here's this guy who really has become one of the players that I think you and I as fans and everybody else in White Sox land kind of looks at Edgar Quero and goes, well, that situation's solved. We're more worried about how he and Teal are going to be able to get enough at bats, because they're both so impressive with what they've been able to do so far. And there does seem to be room for growth with both of them, which is amazing as well. If Lenin Sosa still had rookie eligibility, I'd be making the case for him too, but his eligibility ran up a couple years ago. So
yeah, but then again, I would look at Sosa's stats right now. Take Sosa's stats right now, put them up against Quero's, are basically the same thing, except Sosa has more home runs, but their OPS is pretty similar, because Quero gets on more often. And then we would go back to your original argument. Catching's just harder. That seems to be what you're saying. Like, catching,
it really is.
You should get extra points because you're a catcher. Just because Jacob Wilson should get extra points because he's a shortstop over a first baseman, even though I think Nick Kurtz wins this thing. Sox nerd Dave Marin finishing us off as he does each and every weekend, brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience the downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore. Check out how we are only a month away from maybe the biggest Oktoberfest there is in the entire area, and it happens in Lamont. I'll be there. Will you? See more at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd?
Fellas, the last time we visited, I prattled on about Lenin Sosa and his home runs as a second baseman. Good stuff, but White Sox manager Will Venable responded by starting good old number 50 at DH, first the next 3 games. Sosa finally returned to second base for the series in Atlanta, and he batted 4th for all 3 games. That combo, a cleanup hitting second baseman, seemed unique to me, so I decided to do a little digging on it. Those starts in the 4-hole as a second sacker brought Sosa's season total to 5, which are the most by a Sox player since George Orta's 9 in 1979. For his career, Sosa has 7 starts as a cleanup hitting second baseman, which is already tied for 10th in club history. The all-time leader here is Cass Michaels at 51 in 1949 and 1950, with Blue Island High School grad Don Calloway second at 30 in 1943. Sosa, Orta, and Lou Fonseca are the only Sox second basemen with homers from the 4th spot. Orta has 2 bombs, while Sosa and Fonseca each have 1. By the way, I met Fonseca at Wrigley Field on June 9, 1979, when he was 80 and I was 14. Aside from pitcher, the Sox second base leader, Michaels, has the fewest amount of games at cleanup. The next fewest is Ping Bodie in center at 163. The most is Paul Konerko with 930 cleanup games at first base. Other Sox cleanup leaders by position are Luke Appling at shortstop, Bill Melton at third base, Shoeless Joe Jackson in left, Magli Ordonez in right, Greg Luzinski at DH, and Sherm Lawler at catcher. Among players with at least 100 games in the 4th spot, Konerko is the White Sox all-time leader with 1,154 hits and 237 homers. The shoeless one is tops with a 340 average. Frank Thomas is first with a 420 OBP, and Albert Bell leads with a 573 slugging percentage. As for regulars on this year's team, Andrew Benintendi is the top cleanup hitter. In 18 games there, Benny is slashing 294, 338, and 529 with 3 homers. Benintendi is one of a whopping 12 players to make a cleanup start for the 2025 White Sox. A few more. Brooks Baldwin is the only player in the 125-year history of the White Sox to walk 3 times and homer in a game out of the 9th spot. He did that on August 18th in Atlanta. Edgar Quero notched his 5th catcher pickoff the next night, tying Bill Naharodny's 1978 record. 4 of Quero's pickoffs have been at third base. Before I get to my zinger, I remind you that gems like these and long-form pieces are on my blog, where I am posting a daily Sox quick list, which you can link to at soxinthebasement.com. My zinger, in honor of the 20th anniversary of the World Champions, I'm going to zing frequently about that team, throwing out some gems you may not know about the 2005 Sox. Not surprisingly, Paul Konerko's 150 starts at cleanup were tops on the 05 champs. Also starting in the 4th spot that year were Carl Everett, A.J. Pierzynski, Ross Glode, and Joe Borchard. Paulie is second in Sox postseason history with 13 games at the 4th spot. Shoeless Joe Jackson is first at 14. That's it, friends. More than you wanted to know about cleanup hitting second baseman, a man named Ping, and of course, Sox catchers pickoffs.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.